Looking at the River Murray Netball Association now on the Friday night sports show, and it is grand final week. Hannah Lola's joining me to preview the big game. Hannah, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, and I'm hoping all those netballers out there ready to play tomorrow are also feeling great.
It's going to be a massive day tomorrow. There's a lot of grand finals going on. Let's start off with the big one. Well, let's actually start off with last week's result, because it was Mypo getting the win, so it will be Mypo getting a rematch against the Imps. But it wasn't an easy fight for them to get here. We tipped the Mallee Storm last week and they came very, very close. Went down by 6 in the end, 45-39. So just recap this game for us. How did it go down? And yeah, were the Mallee Storm in with a real fighting chance here?
Oh, they certainly were, Dan. Listen, I probably went with the heart, not the head last week, but that's okay. You're allowed to do that. And,
certainly are.
You know, it was hosted at Imps. It was a great day, huge crowd, and, you know, Imps put on a great session. Poor things, it had been pretty windy on the Friday, so they didn't have long to set up. So, you know, credit to Imps for how they ran our preliminary final. But the Storm has huge support, and that was really evident on the sidelines, plenty of pink and blue. But Mypo, it was interesting. They had a different starting 7 to what they started with in the semi before, and they were in front for the entire game. But I don't think they ever really had the match probably until the last half of the last quarter. So Mypo would extend their lead, and then Storm would peg it back. John got back within 3 in that last game, in the last quarter, just when you thought Mypo was going to get a run on. Something had happened and Storm would get a couple more goals. So it was probably, for Mypo, the best prep they could have to win in a tight one that made them play really good netball. What was really interesting was chatting to some people afterwards that some of the footballers or people who support football had been over watching it. And they were like, oh my gosh, I thought netball was a non-contact sport. And I'm like, no, it's not non-contact. It's contested, because it was contested ball everywhere. There was some big hits. There was some big tumbles. No one backed out from trying to, you know, be really tough at the ball, you know, all within the spirit of netball. But everyone wanted to get through. So I think some footy coaches might want to take their A-grade netballers over there and teach the boys a thing or two about bumping. So I think we talked about it last week. Mypo's mid-court is super impressive, and I think that was the difference. Both goalies were a little tentative to start with, both ends, but they settled into the match. Mypo's got lots of options on their bench and depth, and probably for Storm they had, you know, a really good starting 7, but when it wasn't quite going right, they didn't have a bench to draw on to change, and that's, you know, that's not unexpected in a new club. So, you know, credit to them for losing a preliminary final by 6. It was good to see some different teams out and about. The association is excited by different colours and people attending. They, Mypo, make their way through and have had a good practice court play leading them to the final.
So do you think we'll have some centre-half forwards from the footy teams training with some goal attacks next season?
Oh, listen, I reckon Shaylin Paik and Kiara Paik from the Storm would teach their footballers a thing or two. So Shaylin played an amazing match up in goal defence and did everything she could, and Kiara certainly laid her body on the line. But yeah, Stacey Hine in wing attack there for Mypo, and Kelly Ottman in centre took the bumps, played on and played well. So, yeah, no, it was really good.
Well, there you go. It must have been a very rough game if the footy boys were taking notice. And, yeah, it'll be a bit of a watch this space to see if there's any joint pre-season training going on before next season's Winter Sports Series. Let's move on to the grand final preview. Fantastic season by the Storm. Like you said, a great effort by them to get as far as they did. And let's face it, Imperials and Mypo, best 2 teams all year by a mile. They both went 15-1. Their only losses coming to each other in the 2 games they played for the year. So for the Storm to come from 4th, going 10-6 on the season and be as close as they were is a really, really good effort. But let's get into this week's game. Imps back in round 2 beat Mypo by 4. Mypo beat them by 7 in round 11. And then in the first week of finals, it was the Imps by 3. So like I said, clearly the best two teams all year. They've got a fantastic rivalry going on, and this is set to be a great grand final. How do you see it playing out? Do you think we'll see some players in different positions? Obviously, they only played 2 weeks ago, so they've got a good scouting report on one another. But yeah, what are your thoughts on how this one's going to go?
I think Imps under Coach of the Year, Carrie Daniels. So Imps as coach was named. We had our presentation night Monday night, and very deservingly by her peers, Carrie took out Coach of the Year. She has a fairly settled starting 7 from what I've observed over the year. And interestingly, these girls did do pre-season with their footballers. So maybe there's something in it that we're just actually borrowing from Carrie's approach. But also at the presentation night, a Team of the Year was announced. And I think when you look at the Team of the Year, it's really interesting because Imps have Casey D. Michelle in Team of the Year. So she's a really solid performer in goals. She lifts her team. She's got good voice. And really accurate. They also have Kayla Delamole from the defensive Team of the Year. Kayla's, I think, was the difference when they last played. I think she was the linchpin to the win there. And they've also, Imps also have Olivia Bolt who runs their centre. So Imps had 3 in Team of the Year, and Mypo had 3 in Team of the Year, and it was their mid-court, Kelly Altman, Shannon Green and Stacey Hine, who actually took out best and fairest for the league. Stacey did. And so I think it's a really interesting matchup where you've got the massive strength of the mid-court of Mypo and then Imps, who are very solid and fairly set where they'll play. Imps has a great bench, can draw on a lot of different people, but tend not to make so many changes. Mypo will start with a different starting 7, I believe, to what they did in the final. And that's mainly because Kate Tucker, who plays goalkeeper for them, she had a slight calf injury when they were playing last time. So she didn't take the court until midway through the last quarter. And they didn't have Charlie Lewis, who's their really tall goal shooter, on the court again until halfway through the last quarter. So it'll be a different starting 7 from Mypo. It'll be the same starting 7 from Imps. I think it will be amazing netball to watch. I am going to say with a different starting 7, I think Mypo might get it by a goal.
All right, by a goal. Gone with the narrow margin.
Yep.
Fair enough. Well,
yep.
Like we said, it's their 4th game for the year, and the first 3 have been very, very close. So with the extra spice of a grand final, there might be some more nerves, and I think you might be on the money there with the 1-goal margin. But yeah, certainly looks like it could go either way. Like we said, clearly the best 2 teams all year, powerhouses of the competition, and especially the Imps, and not just in the A grade, because they are well represented all the way through. If we look down the grades in the A reserves, we've got the Imps playing the Ramblers. In the B, Ramblers and Manham. B reserves, Ramblers and the Imps. And in the C grade, the Imps and Tailem Bend. And they've got a few more through the juniors as well. So they are the powerhouse of the competition, the Imperials, aren't they?
Well, they certainly are, credit to them. 7 teams, there's 12 matches on Saturday, and Imps feature in 7 of them. We run 2 courts for our finals, and on 1 court, Imps are playing every game. That's super impressive. John D. Michelle, both president of Imps and, their business, is a big supporter of the RMNA and Netball. He'll be a very happy man heading to Tailem, and I'm sure he will go home with some more trophies to put in the cabinet. Mypo is a team which has got 5 teams into the grand final. So again, really impressive. Ramblers have got 3, Jervois have 3, and, new club Mallee Storm have 3. So they're ecstatic. Tailem Bend have got 2 playing on their home courts on Saturday, and Manham's got a team in. So, dominated by 2 clubs, but certainly other clubs are well represented. And whilst the Cats and the Suns don't have teams that have made it through to the grand final, all clubs were in the preliminary final. So I think from an association perspective, that's great. Like, you want all clubs participating at least into that the preliminary final, and that's what we saw. Yeah, it should be hopefully a nice warm day. It's interesting, the Senior Club of the Year was won by The Imperials, so that's the most wins of the senior teams. Mypolonga took out the most wins of the junior teams, and Mypolonga took out the most successful club, which combines them all. So fascinating to see the different teams as they approach Saturday.
Battle of the Powerhouses in the A-grade final, and a massive day on at Tailem Bend. Going to be a cracker. Great to see lots of teams involved on grand final day. Hannah, enjoy the day. Like I said, it's definitely going to be a cracker. We'll see if your tip for the 1-goal margin to Mypo gets up. But looking forward to checking in next week, and enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, Dan.